Hi, my name is Jonna and I play football for Chelsea FC and for the Swedish national team. And you are listening to the Blue Day podcast.
Fellow Chelsea supporters, here at the Blue Day podcast, I am delighted to welcome this individual on the show today. He made 194 appearances for the club, scoring 13 goals. Plus, he was part of the Chelsea team that won the Second Division Championship in 1989. Here is none other than David Lee. David, welcome to the Blue Day podcast, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure is absolutely mine, David. I want to start the interview, if I can, by just asking cast your mind back to when you was a youngster. Did you have any influences when it came to deciding to become a professional footballer?
Well, I would say at the age of 14, I had a choice to make of who to sign for. Back then, it was different. There was no academies. It was like, you played for your school, your district, your county, and your local Saturday and Sunday teams. I had a choice to sign for quite a few clubs at the time. And I had a chat with my dad. He was obviously the biggest influence at the time. And it just is up to you. It's your choice. And the choice I made was to sign for Chelsea at 14.
And who were your idols growing up as a kid?
Player-wise, Glenn Hoddle was the one that I aspired to be when I was youngster. Kind of not grew up a Tottenham fan, but I was a Bristol Rovers fan because it's where I grew up, and used to be a season ticket holder. But I had the Tottenham shirt, the old blue, I think in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, I was a Tottenham fan until I realised when I went to Chelsea, it wasn't the thing to do.
Not something you'd admit at all.
Not at the time I didn't, no, definitely not. After, it's a little bit easier to say, but not during, while I was there, I couldn't actually say anything. So Bristol Rovers was my childhood team growing up. Yeah, my dad used to live sort of 2 minutes from the ground, so we used to go there when we were kids until I started playing, actually.
Now, you said just a minute ago that you started your career at Chelsea. Just describe to the listeners what the youth setup or what the sort of like reserve football was like, because it's a lot different to what it is now.
So it was a progression from 14 to 16. I went up every school holiday and every weekend to play in the under 15s, under 16s. Then when I was 16, played in the youth team on a Saturday or a midweek game, which I had a lot of grief from my school. I needed to have time off school and they weren't that keen on it, to be fair. I remember my dad had to come in and see the headmaster because, Gwyn Williams, who was the youth manager, wanted me to travel on a Tuesday to Harlington to play in a youth game. And, this is my livelihood, my career at stake. I hadn't been told at the time if I was getting an apprenticeship. And, the headmaster wasn't, he obviously wasn't football orientated. Some of the teachers were great towards it, but the headmaster in the end, like I said, my dad had to come up and sort of, say to him, well, he's going regardless of what you say, sort of thing. So I travelled up on sort of some Tuesdays and then holidays and weekends. And then I got a letter in March, April of the year I was leaving school to say that I'd be offered an apprenticeship at Chelsea. It was a YTS back in the day, 2-year YTS, which meant cleaning the boots and the toilets, the stands, the kit and all that. But it was great. We had a real good group of lads who, still keep in contact to this day. People like Gareth Hall, Graham Stewart, Jason Cundy, Damien Matthew. And then there was a lad called Stephen Beattie, who I lived with in Diggs for a couple of years, who lives in Ireland, and we still are in contact. So from that point of view, it was great. And then I sort of progressed from the youth team. And then in my second year as an apprentice, I started to play regular in the reserves. But back in them days, the reserves league was a lot different. It was played on a Saturday or a Tuesday. And if first teamers didn't play on a Saturday, they'd play on a Tuesday. And the ones who were left out of the squad on a Saturday would play on a Saturday, and the games would be at the grounds. one of my first games I remember playing in the reserves was at home against Arsenal, and they had Quinn, Charlie Nicholas, Merson, and Kevin Campbell up front. So that was the sort of standard you're playing against when you're 17, 18, which was great. It all helped, and it boded well for the future, in my opinion. Nowadays, the under 23s is not great. You don't see that many first teamers playing in it. So it was a lot different back then to what it is now.
Now, you're in a selected group of players for the club to have scored on your debut. It was against Leicester City at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. When did you know you was going to be in the team, and what are your memories of that game and the entire day itself?
So previously to that, we'd had a bad start to the season, and I was I had to hump a little bit because pre-season I'd scored a lot of goals and I wasn't included. And, I was only young. I thought, well, I've got plenty of time. But, when you're a player, you just want to play every game. And I've been on the bench a few games previous to Leicester and not got on. And then, as always, just after half time, whatever the score, you always go and have a little warm up. So I was warming up, and then I'm not sure if it was 0-0 or we were 1-0 down, but he told me I was going on, played centre midfield, and just said, go on and nick us a goal. And that was it. That's what Bobby said to me. I remember it to this day. He just said, go on and nick us a goal. And I went on, and I remember the ball was down. I can remember it like yesterday. The ball went down the right-hand side. Kevin McAllister crossed it. Kerry's far post with a header. Keeper saved it. And I've just sort of reacted off the keeper saving it and just managed to get there in front of the defender. And it was a wonderful feeling. It was something that, I'd been striving to do all my childhood life to get into a first team. And it was a brilliant day. And then I got brought down to the penalty, and I sort of cheekily asked Ben Roberts, could I take it? And he just glared at me and said, nothing. And that was it. He scored. And I remember going back to Bristol actually after the game with my parents and a couple of mates, and went out in a few pubs where I used to grow up. And a few people said to me, "Oh, I see you scored today," and that. So it was quite nice,
And you've mentioned Bobby Campbell, who was the coach at the time. What was he like as a coach?
Yeah, Bob was good for us. He had faith in the youngsters. I think he realised that at the time we had a good crop of youngsters, and he fair play to him. I'll always be thankful to Bobby because he was the one who gave me my debut. So he was good with it. He could have a little pop at you now and again and come across a little bit narky, but deep down he was a football man, and I can't say too much because he gave me my chance, and like I said, I'll be forever grateful to him. But he was a decent coach. He'd been around, started at Liverpool, been abroad, I think Saudi Arabia, different places, QPR. So he knew his stuff, and he wasn't, he didn't coach all the time. Put in Porterfield, did a lot of the coaching, but he was good, Bob. Never had a problem with him. And obviously, the sad news a few years ago when he passed away.
Now, as a young player in the team that had quite a lot of experience, as you say, Kerry Dixon, Tony Dorigo, just to name a few, which teammates did you get on really well with?
Well, I roomed with Kerry. Kerry was my roomie for a few years, and I have to say, he looked after me unbelievable. Really, really nice fella. I still see him now. Still speak to him. He was just a top fella, and at the time he was the superstar at Chelsea, in my opinion. I don't think he gets the credit of how good he was. He was a top player, in my opinion. Unfortunately, with England, he was unlucky. You had Lineker and Beardsley at the time, and Haitley. But he was a top player, top bloke. And the other one that I got on with really well was Kevin Hitchcock. Me and Hitchy just got on great from day one when he came in, although I was still an apprentice when he first came in. He sort of took me under his wing a little bit and looked after me at times. And if there was any scrapes, he would be looking after me, I would say. But most of the lads were brilliant. There wasn't anyone I didn't like. You had some great older pros like Jukebox, Tony Dorigo, Colin Pates had just left. Johnny Bumstead's another one who I still see, at match days and have a pint with. There were some great lads there, some really, really good guys. And then people like Gareth and Graham Stewart, two guys. I'm actually going away golfing with them on Thursday to Spain. So, we still keep in touch and see each other whenever we can.
And that season, Chelsea did achieve promotion back to the First Division. How crucial was it for the club at that time to be back in the top flight?
Yeah, it was massively important. I mean, I sort of said to Bobby a few years back, I said, I think I saved your life, your career that day because we'd lost so many games. I think he might have got sacked if he'd lost to Leicester. And he sort of looked at me and I said, look, I'm only joking. But no, it was a turning point for me, that game. And we went on an unbelievable run from that game onwards. I don't know how many games we went unbeaten, but some of the teams that we played that year, we just blew them apart. I mean, I remember Jukebox scored 5 in one game. We went to Man City and went 3 up. It was fantastic. We knew, the only downside to that is I think we thought we were going to win it at Leicester away. Unfortunately, it was the day at Hillsborough and we got beat. We could have won it that day. I think we sort of set our sort of hearts on winning it that day. We didn't. I think we got beat 2-1 in the end. But obviously we were always going to win it. From Christmas onwards, we were just like a juggernaut rolling along. And it was a brilliant experience. We had some top pros like Graham Roberts was another one who was magnificent for me. Growing up watching him in that Tottenham team. He was very, very good to me. He was always trying to, tell me where to be on the pitch and what to do and just give me little tips and encouragement and that. He was great. And Peter Nichols was the same. Peter had been around the block a lot and he was very similar to Graham. I thought it was, Bobby bringing them to him was an astute piece of business.
Then the next season, the 89-90 season, you did start the season quite well. You was playing regularly. You had a good run of games. Was you happy with your development as a footballer at this stage, or did you feel you could have contributed just a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, the first season, I think the problem I had was I was kind of moved around a lot, played centre midfield, centre back, even a couple of games I sort of came on up front, left back, whatever. So I kind of felt that I didn't really nail myself to one position, which when you look back, you think, oh, maybe I should have. But, when you're young, you just want to play. And if a manager says you play in midfield, you're playing at the back, just get on with it. I thought it was an edge. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, what did you feel your best position was? Was it centre mid or centre back?
I think when I was younger, it was probably better centre mid. And then as I got older, probably, you sort of understand the game a bit more. And probably in the middle of a 3 would be my ideal position. But I quite enjoyed, playing. I enjoyed playing either, to be fair. You sort of look at it now in today's game when you've got 2 centre backs and we always had 2 centre forwards to mark. Nowadays they've got 1 between 2, so it'd be completely different. But you can't compare apples to pears, can you? It's one of them things. It's got in my era we played how it was, and they play how they are now. But going back to your question, I would say I enjoyed both. I enjoyed probably midfield more because you had probably more chance of scoring. But no, I enjoyed both. And my development that year, we started off really well, and then we had a really tough month. I think we got spanked by Liverpool and Wimbledon. And it sort of, it hit home a little bit that, we needed to do more. And I think, where did we finish that season? Did we finish about 8th?
No, in 1990, the club finished 5th.
5th, that's right. I knew it was, yeah. So it was a decent season in our first season. I remember my first game in the top flight. We played Wimbledon away, first game of the season. And, they had Fash and John Gell and I think Carlton Fairweather and Alan Court. They had like 4 bruisers up front, and I think we defended quite well. And I think Kevin Wilson nicked it in the last minute. Yeah, so it was great. I've got a picture actually at home of I'm on the terrace in the away end. We had the red and white kit on, didn't we? So it's quite a good picture actually.
And also that season we were in the Full Members Cup final.
Yeah,
where we did win 1-0. Just to clarify on the situation, what was the reasons that you missed out? Was it because of the team selection, or was there a particular injury that you picked up beforehand? No,
I was just named on the bench. He just named me on the bench. He went with Peter Nicholas, John Bumstead midfield, and I think Kenny and Erland at the back. So his choice. Unfortunately, I didn't get on, but delighted that we won, obviously. It was a great day for the club.
And then rolling on to next season, you ended up scoring the first goal of that season. It was at home to Derby.
Yeah.
Because of how well Chelsea were doing in the league the previous season and then winning at Wembley, what was the expectations going into that season amongst the squad?
I think every season, every expectation is to do better than what you did the year before. So, like say we finished 5th. So, we, as a as a collective, we'd always want to improve on what we're doing. Manager would always be the same. We did this last year, but can we improve? Where can we improve? What can we do to make us better? I think that's the sort of the general consensus of most clubs. I would say, whatever you've done the year before, can you better it? Depends on your circumstances. Now some clubs might lose their top player, some might sign top players, so it just depends. But generally, it's to be better than what you were the year before.
And that summer, Chelsea signed two significant players in Andy Townsend and Dennis Wise.
Yeah.
How significant was these signings to the club?
Brilliant signings in my opinion. Obviously, Dennis went on to stay a lot longer than Andy did, but top class signings, brilliant lads. Really. I mean, I worked with Dennis at Swindon. After my time at Chelsea, he was, what he did at Chelsea speaks for himself. The amount of games he played, he was captain. The trophies that he won, but as a player and a person, I can't speak highly enough of Dennis. Andy was a top player in my opinion. Disappointed when he left, especially when he went to Villa rather than, if he'd have gone to Man United or Liverpool, I would have understood it a bit more. But the fact that he went to Villa, but I'm not saying Villa's not a big club, and Andy had success, and he might argue that he enjoyed his time more at Villa than he did at Chelsea. But again, a great guy. I had the pleasure of meeting up again with him not that long ago in a golf day. So really funny guy. I think he gets a lot of stick on social media from Chelsea fans regarding his commentary. But, of course, listen, if someone leaves your club in a way they leave, I can understand the frustration of the fans. But I just feel that personally, as a bloke, top bloke, and a very, very good player, in my opinion.
The one game that season that when I was doing the research, it sort of flashed at me was the 7-0 hammering against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground. Now, there's rumours amongst Chelsea supporters, but also sort of rumours amongst other individuals from this game of this disharmony and discontent amongst the team that day. What were your thoughts on that game in particular? And are these particular rumours true of players not giving 100% for one particular reason?
No, I mean, I understand what the rumours are, and you're probably talking about people like Tony Dorigo, who was playing his last game and was leaving, and people say he didn't try. That's nonsense. No professional footballer ever goes out there and doesn't try. I felt for Frank Sinclair. I think it was one of his first games, and he was up against Crosby, and I think he scored a hat trick. But we were just ridiculously poor on the day as an individual, as a collective. We were just not at the races, and we got spanked. And this as a professional, you don't want to get beat any game, let alone get beat 7. So from my point of view, it was poor from all our points of view. But there's no truth in anything that people didn't try or anything like that, or any hidden agendas. That's for sure. I remember in the dressing room after, he went nuts about it, and rightly so. Rightly so. You can't. No matter what, it doesn't matter if it's a meaningless end of season game. You've got the badge on the shirt, and you've got fans paying good money to come and see you, and you've got to give 100% every single game. Okay, if you get beat by the better team, then fine. But I don't think anyone can accuse, especially, well, I can only speak for myself, but no one could ever accuse me of not trying when I had the shirt on.
Now, it was around about 1992 that you went out on loan from Chelsea. Did you see this as an opportunity to further develop yourself, or was it an opportunity to maybe get a move elsewhere? Because it was around this time that you wasn't featured much in the first team. Yeah,
I just wanted to go and play games. I sort of think didn't see eye to eye with the manager at the time. He wasn't going to pick me. He just said he wants a centre half who just literally heads it and kicks it. I understand that, and I said to him, fine. I said, if you don't want me playing your first team, I've got no problem, but let me go and play on loan and let me get some games in. So that's what I did. I went out and played some games, and I think I think long term it benefits you. You sort of realise you've left Chelsea, massive football club, to go and play, lower down the chain, but it makes you sort of stronger as a person, and I think you realise that you want to be where you've just come from. So it was always my ambition to go back. I didn't really want to move from then.
I was just going to say, you returned to Chelsea around the 92-93 season. which is quite incredible when you look back on it. 30 years ago, the Premier League began. What was your thoughts at the time of the football pyramid changing and the top league being rebranded? Because there was a lot of controversy and a lot of sort of news on it at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think back then there was no social media and things like that, so it's a bit different in today's market. But as a player, you don't really, we basically the wording's changed in the newspaper from the League One or the old Division One to Premier League and all the glitz and the glamour that goes with it. But as a player, you don't really think about it. Well, I certainly didn't. I just thought, well, we're in the top flight, all the brands and that are going behind the scene and nothing to do with us. It's just a case of we need to win every single football match. It's not. I mean, I don't want to be blasé or anything about it, but it didn't really make any difference to me personally.
Now, I want to fast forward a year to the summer of '93. One person that you've already mentioned on this show, it was a new season and it was a new manager, this time with Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah.
What stories do you have to share of Glenn being the manager? Because there's a few Chelsea fans or a number of Chelsea fans that, for whatever reason, don't like him, for whether or not because of his affiliation with Tottenham. But I think Glenn does get a little bit of a bad rap from Chelsea supporters, bearing in mind that he was at Chelsea for a while.
Yeah.
What stories do you have of Glenn Hoddle when he turned up at Chelsea?
Well, Glenn, I think is quite well documented that Glenn came to Chelsea before he got the Swindon job and was rehabbing. He was at Monaco and he came into the training ground, excuse me, to rehab, and he had a problem with his knee, and we got to know him sort of through that, So a lot of the lads knew him, got to know him through his rehabbing, and then he went to Swindon, and Swindon's like a West Country club, and I just kept my eye on how they were doing and that. And funny enough, I played against his team, I think a couple of games before the end of the season while I was on loan. I had a chat with him after that, and then I heard he was coming to Chelsea, and I was delighted. I knew the kind of football he'd play. I knew the kind of system he'd play, and I was hoping I would be sort of part of that. I think Glenn doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he started at Chelsea, what the structure he put in, and how when he left there was lots of things that he could take credit for. I think the training ground for one. There's lots of little things that probably don't mean a lot to supporters, and they probably think every footballer's pampered. But like the food at the training grounds. He brought in dietitians, he brought in reflexologists, he brought in masseurs. So little things like that, I can see these fans going, £100 a week, they should be better to do this and that. But it's something that he doesn't. A lot of people within the club would know what Glenn did, but a lot of until now, some people might not have known this, but I feel that he put some blocks in place and started the sort of the turnaround of Chelsea. Forget the money that Abramovich brought in and, turn the club that way. I think Glenn slowly, and listen, I was disappointed when he left, like most people or most players were, but you can't turn down the England team, England job, I don't think, because if you never got it, you'd always regret that moment. Glenn probably thinks now it was probably too early for him to do it, but it's like anything. It's like when Frank Lampard got offered the Chelsea job, he ain't going to turn it down. No matter if people think he's too young, regardless, you're going to take it, and that's football, I'm afraid. But yeah, I was disappointed. I really was disappointed when he left.
And one game sort of highlighted for you that season was in the Premier League against Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
you came on as a sub, you scored a goal, but then got sent off.
It's funny. I was talking to someone yesterday about that game because John Sheridan's name came up, and I said, look, I remember. I got booked for a tackle, and then they had a free kick, and I literally flicked the ball into Shez's hands. And I think he kind of, I'd have let it go, and like the ref deemed I'd kick the ball away, which was a joke. And that really cost me, because the next week we played United, and I was suspended, and I couldn't get back in the team after that.
And so that season, Chelsea got to the FA Cup final,
exactly,
where we would play against Manchester United. You wasn't involved in that game. Where did you watch it? Was you at Wembley? Was you at home? What was?
No, I was at Wembley with the rest of the people who weren't involved in my family. I can't remember who I sat by at the time. Obviously, it's a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, we had a do after dinner at the hotel after, and I went to that and everything. So at the end of the day, I was an employee of Chelsea Football Club, being paid to and there are people who wouldn't. There are people I know of, I won't name, who didn't go. But no, they're my mates at the end of the day, and I'm there to support them. And yeah, it was a bad day in terms of 4-0 in the cup final, but it wasn't really a 4-0, was it? I mean, you get that in football. Yeah, they were probably the better team, but 4-0 was a bit harsh, on the day. But it's the way it is, unfortunately. But I didn't want us to lose. I'm like I say, I've worked for Chelsea, I played for Chelsea. I wanted them to win, and that's it.
And when did you notice that things were improving for Chelsea as a club under Glenn Hoddle? Despite the 4-0 hammering in the FA Cup final, when did you and your teammates start sort of looking at things differently and seeing Chelsea more competitive?
I would say from day one when Glenn came in, he had his vision. He sat us all down on the first day of pre-season training and told us what he expected of what his vision was for the club and where he wanted to go. And I think slowly and surely he kind of got us to where he wanted in 3 years he was there. Had he stayed, I believe he would have taken us further and probably got up to speed of where they were when the new regime took over. But I still think Glenn could have done that had he stayed. And yeah, I think from day one he instilled lots of things that he'd learned over his career. I think Arsene Wenger was a big mentor for Glenn when he played abroad, and I think he learned a lot of him, which you understand because in the late 90s and the early 2000s, Wenger was a fantastic manager for Arsenal. So obviously learning lots of him was great for us as players and for the club.
Moving on to the 94-95 season, where Chelsea was in Europe for the first time in many years. Your first appearance in Europe was no less in a crucial second leg tie against Club Brugge at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
Looking back now, how did it feel to play for Chelsea in Europe, and what was the atmosphere like on that particular game?
Playing, because I went on loan to Portsmouth, and obviously I was included in the 25-man squad for the earlier rounds. And then, like you say, I played in the second. The atmosphere that night was sensational. I've got to say, the atmosphere at the Bridge. They're always special nights at the Bridge, under the lights. But in Europe, it was really, really good. To play was, fantastic. To say I've played European football with Chelsea, and bizarrely as it seems, I remember the night after the game more than the game itself. I remember we ended up in the Pitch and Piano down the Fulham Road with it was me, Gareth Hall, and a few others. I think a few of his mates. And all I remember is walking in there and the place was just rammed with Chelsea fans. And God knows what time we left there, but it was absolutely sensational. That. And, I know every club says their fans are great, but Chelsea fans to me are the best in the world without a doubt. When it comes to things like that, it was just brilliant.
And then later on in that competition, the semi-final, second leg against Real Zaragoza at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. We win the game, but we don't win the tie. You was part of that.
No. Yeah.
Was there, this might sound a bit ridiculous to ask, but was there disappointment amongst the team that they didn't go through, or was there a bit more sort of pride that although we didn't win the tie, we won the game and we perhaps got some respect back after what happened in the first leg?
Yeah, I mean, we got undone by the lad, Schneider. I mean, obviously I didn't play in the first leg and we got beat 3-0. The Argentinian centre forward destroyed us. But yeah, it's like any football match, you got pride, in front of your home fans. Yeah, you want to win it. Listen, we thought we could get the 3 goals back. You've got to believe that, first of all. But I think we went one up, and I think we might have hit the post, and they scored, didn't they? Which just killed the atmosphere a little bit. But like we won the game, and if we'd have got another one, it could have been a nervy 5 minutes at the end. But over the 2 legs, they probably deserved it. But it was disappointing because I think we'd have had Arsenal in the final, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So I think that was the sort of the disappointment of it all. But it was a great experience from a personal point of view. To play in Europe in semi-final. It was really it was good. And the crowd was good again that night. Again, the atmosphere was very similar to the quarterfinals against Bruges, although we had more of a mountain to climb that night. But no, it was good just to see Chelsea challenging and competing in semi-finals in European football.
Now, in the summer of '95, things started to change quite rapidly for Chelsea in terms of signings. Mark Hughes and Ruud Gullit joined the team.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were when you first heard that they signed for the club, and what was their first training sessions like amongst the boys?
So I remember I was in Portugal on holiday post-season, and I bumped into some people who were Chelsea fans. And I was just sitting around by the pool, and I spoke to them most days. And then I was sat there, and they came over to me and said, "Have you heard the news?" I'm like, "No, we've just signed Mark Hughes." And I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was a little bit shocked, but absolutely delighted. And then I think Ruud sign after Sparky? He did, didn't he? Yeah, I think so. I can't remember where I was, but again, someone rang me and said, "Oh, have you seen who Chelsea have signed?" I'm like, "No." Ruud Gullit. I'm like, "Yeah, all right, good one." And then obviously I found out, and when they came in pre-season, I mean, Sparky, he was very, very quiet person off the pitch. Really nice guy. He was actually my roomie for a few years as well. He came in and just settled in. Brilliant, a top fella, top player in my opinion. And Ruud was again just one of the lads. He came in and introduced himself, and just you thought he'd been there for like a year. After about a week, he was just one of the lads. There was no arrogance. There was nothing. I mean, Wise used to call him Big Nose, and it just helped him settle in. I think it was brilliant. It really was. He was a top guy. He was a real top guy. The only thing I'd say is with Ruud, I remember we trained once at Harnington, and it wasn't the greatest at the time. It's not like Cobham is now. And there was thunder and lightning, and Ruud just walked in. He said, "No, I don't train in thunder and lightning," and just walked in. And that was it. But no one could say it. When you're World Player of the Year and Golden Boot winner or Ballon d'Or winner, no one could say anything. He just walked in, and that was it. But he mixed with the lads and everything. He came to Cheltenham with us, and he'd come on nights out. He couldn't understand how we wore a shirt and ties to games though. He came in the dressing room. I think the first home game of that season was a night match against Coventry, and I think we'd had tracksuits maybe the first game, and then we were told collar and tie for the game. And he walked in the dressing room. He's like, "Where's the wedding?" He couldn't understand. He turned out in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and he's like, "Well, it's a football match, not a wedding." So little things that sort of were quite amusing. But he was just one of the guys. That's how as a player. Obviously, he changed when he became manager, but as a player, great. I remember we played in Rotterdam, I think, pre-season, and he took us out in Holland, and he was just a really nice guy.
Now, during that particular season, you scored a crucial goal in a 3-2 win against Bolton in November at Stamford Bridge. It was your first in a couple of years. What was Stamford Bridge like to play in those days? Because the ground itself is a lot different to what it is now, and obviously with the capacity changing, and also with there was a couple of stands that were still being redeveloped at that time.
Yeah, it was strange. There's games where, when you're used to the atmosphere of the Bruges game, and when you're playing Tottenham at home or a big club, Liverpool, Man U, when it's full and there's a huge atmosphere, and then all of a sudden, I know a lot of these grounds have had to go through it because of the development, but yeah, you can hear every word that someone says. When it's sort of the capacity is depleted. Now it could be good or bad depending how well you play. If you're playing well, it's great, and if you're not so playing so well, then you get a few sort of sarky comments. But no, I mean, listen, as far as I'm concerned, from a personal point of view, I always felt I had a good affinity with the fans at Chelsea. It was no different. It was just the difference was there wasn't as many people there, and that was it really. But it was still good, Chelsea fans are brilliant, no matter what people say. I think they've always been great. I've never really had an issue with anyone, and I thought it was brilliant.
There was one particular FA Cup tie against Newcastle that went to a replay in January of '96. You scored in the shootout win. Was there much nerves from your point sort of before you took the penalty, and what is it like to sort of take a penalty in a sort of a crucial cup tie in that
Yeah, I think
magnitude?
I think I was more nervous against Millwall when we had the first one a couple of years before. But no, I enjoyed taking penalties, and sort of Dennis was always on penalties and Glenn's moved me to penalties a few times. And I remember one game when we played Leeds and we were winning 3-0 or whatever, and Sparky had scored 2 and we had a penalty, and I let him take it. But yeah, I was quite confident taking a penalty. I didn't get nervous as such. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a little bit of nerves in me. But no, I quite enjoyed taking penalties, and thankfully I didn't miss it for Chelsea. So I felt we went up to Newcastle. We got harshly done by. I think in the first leg we conceded last minute. I think Dimitri miskicked the ball coming out, and I think Ferdinand scored. So we went up there really confident, and I think it went to extra time. But I felt when it went to penalties, Hitchy was top penalty saver as well, and I just felt we had confidence and we were going to go through. So yeah, I think I can't remember. Did I take the first one or the fourth one? I was either first or fourth normally in shootouts. So yeah, I quite enjoyed taking pens, to be fair.
And in that same competition, we got knocked out to Manchester United in the semi-final.
Yeah.
With Craig Burley with the unfortunate back pass.
Yeah.
Was it from that game, or was it perhaps after, from that season, where the belief amongst a team with sort of Glenn Hoddle and with the players already mentioned that Chelsea could potentially win something?
Absolutely. I mean, we genuinely thought that we could beat United that day. We were playing well. I mean, the worst thing for me that day was Dan Petrescu's suspension. Dan got booked at Liverpool, and it was a days if you got booked, it was 2 weeks later, you'd missed the game. Now you can argue, should Glenn have played him? But then you can argue, Dan's a professional and don't get booked for a silly tackle or a silly thing. So you can put it down to either one whose fault it was. Yeah, we went one up at half time, and Terry Phelan pulled his hamstring for the first goal, I think. And then Craig, unfortunately, with the back pass. So you can't legislate for that. But we were distraught. That dressing room was distraught because we had a good team, I felt, that year. And we did it the hard way in the cup. We had some tough ties. We had to go Newcastle, Grimsby, QPR, Wimbledon. We drew at home in Wimbledon and then had to go to Wimbledon. So we'd done it the hard way. And listen, it was horrible in that dressing room after. No one likes losing the semi-final. But we did feel that we had the belief to win something. And I think, they say it makes you stronger when you lose games, but it did. And we progressed from there, really.
And that summer of '96,
yeah,
as we mentioned before, Glenn Hoddle took the England job.
Which
meant he left, and Ruud Gullit took charge.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to the change that Ruud Gullit was becoming the new coach? And secondly, what was the team's reaction to a teammate now sort of being the boss?
I think, if I answer the second part first, as far as Ruud becoming the boss, I think it was a case of, bit of continuity. Didn't really have to go and find someone we didn't know. Everyone knew him. Everyone knew his pedigree. We didn't know what he was going to be like as a manager, obviously. And I think at first he felt it was quite difficult to make that transition. He'd be playing cards at the back of the bus with us on the way to games. And then, he's leaving players out. And I think Dennis sort of said to him, you can't play cards anymore, Ruud, because, you might leave that player out in about half hour's time. So I think Ruud accepted. But I think because he was such a genuine, nice guy, Ruud, the lads didn't really worry about him. We wanted to do well for him. What was the first part of the question?
What was your reaction to Ruud coming in as coach?
Yeah, so kind of answered in that one. Yeah, I was happy. I was actually out of contract at the end of that, the same time as when Ruud came in, and I wasn't. And then I obviously found out they brought in Frank Leboeuf, and I was sort of like, what do I do? I didn't want to leave Chelsea. Ruud made it clear he wanted me to stay, and then eventually offered me a 3-year contract. And I signed. I thought, right, okay, I'll stay. I'll fight for my place. And it didn't start off great. He didn't play me because I felt I had one of the best seasons I had the year before. Played lots of games, and then but I wasn't bothered. Competitions never really bothered me because, it sort of brings the best out of you sometimes, and you feel. But I'm thinking he's a World Cup winner. He's coming in. He's not going to play him. But I played in a few of the games, then I got left out again, and I'm thinking, what do I do here? Just signed a 3-year deal. I'm happy at Chelsea. I'm happy, in my life away from football. So it was quite tough. And then obviously the inevitable happens, and I broke my leg. So.
Well, I was going to mention that your first appearance of that season was against Tottenham in a 3-1 win. It was very eventful, to say the least.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Before we talk about the injury that you suffered, it was the first home game since Matthew Harding lost his life in a helicopter crash. Before we talk about that game and the injury, what are your memories of Matthew Harding? Did you have much interaction with him at your time at Chelsea?
I did. I mean, funny enough, we were supposed to go to Glasgow within a couple of weeks later to watch Rangers in Europe. Me and Johnny Spencer we'd been up to the Rangers Leeds game, and it was brilliant. To be fair, the atmosphere out there was. And Spenny had invited Matthew, and he was going to come up to one of the games with us in a few weeks' time. So my sort of memories of that was that Tuesday night we left Bolton. I think I was subbed that night. I think we got beat by Bolton and got home as usual about early hours of the morning. And I'll never forget, my phone rang at home about 6:30 that morning. It was Teresa, the secretary, to tell us, the sad news. And there was a reserve game scheduled against Forest that day at Stamford Bridge. And she said it's cancelled. I'm supposed to be playing in it. Said it was cancelled, and she said, well, you'll get a phone call later on to tell you, where you're going to be, what time you're going to be next. So, then the phone starts ringing. All the lads, we sort of rang each other up, and obviously couldn't believe it. It was so sad what happened. And then we got told to report to Stamford Bridge, I think on the Thursday. And I went into the ground, and I got there. Someone said to me, oh, the manager wants to see you. So I went in to see the manager, and he said, listen, I've had a club come in for you. They've made a bid. It's not enough. Would you be interested in leaving and going? And I went, well, it depends who it is. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you till, they come up with a substantial offer. I said, okay, fine. I said, I don't really want to leave Rude anyway. Then he said, I'll let you know tomorrow. So on the Friday, we trained at Stamford Bridge. And then he said to me, I need to see you after training. So he called me in, and he said, listen, the club, I'm going to tell you now, it's Coventry. Big Ron has made a bid. Do you want to go? And I went, I don't know. I said, I probably need the weekend to think about it. And he's like, yeah, I understand. He said, I'll tell them that. I said, yeah. So I went, he said, okay. And I went to walk out, and he went, hold on. I went, what? He went, you're playing tomorrow. I went, okay. So that was the Tottenham game. So I'm thinking, do I really want to leave? No. So I didn't say anything. I went home prepared for the game. Came in the next day, and then obviously, what happened. But I mean, I could have said to him there and then, I want to go, and I'm not playing tomorrow. Some players would do that; they'd just say no. But I didn't think of injury or anything like that, and just I wanted to play for Chelsea, Tottenham at home. There's no better feeling as a Chelsea player against Tottenham, especially that our record or my individual record against them was, fantastic. So I played, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, you scored the penalty as well. You scored a crucial penalty in that game.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned about the injury that you suffered.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at this point, knowing that, did you sort of have an inkling that this was going to be a very severe injury? Did you feel that this could be maybe a short-term fix? What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, when it happened, I didn't feel like I'd broke my leg, just sort of, I think you're probably in a little bit of shock. And I remember because someone very kindly, whether it was good or bad, sent me a picture of me in agony with Sparky and Luca sort of looking over me. And I was thinking, have they sent me that as a joke or a bit of a... And I remember Sparky saying to me, I think you've broke it. He said, I heard the crack. He said, I think it's broke, so just don't move. I remember him saying that. And then the next thing I remember is sort of in the back of an ambulance on my way to Charing Cross. In a bit of shock, really. Didn't really know what to expect. But it took me, I don't know, I think it's 30 months, whatever, till I got played again. It's a long time, and it just didn't heal very quickly. And, as you get older, it takes longer to heal. And it it didn't finish me completely, but I felt it was never the same after that injury for
Now,
whatever reason.
before we talk towards the FA Cup final, what do you
Yeah.
remember of the FA Cup final song, Blue Day, sung by Suggs and the Chelsea squad? What are your memories of that?
It was brilliant. I remember because I was quite heavily involved with Alan McGee and Creation Records at the time. So all the music, I was really into the music. Andy Saunders as well, people like that. I got introduced to them, and I was really, big on the music. And Madness was sort of someone that, growing up, I remember, watching. I even went to see him in Bristol. And then when we got a call saying, "Oh, Suds wants to do a song with you," I was like delighted. And I remember we met up on a Sunday morning. I think we had a couple of beers and we went into the studio, and it was we had a brilliant sort of camaraderie amongst the lads. So you can imagine, 20 guys doing this song. No one's got a good voice amongst us, although a lot profess to have had a good voice. And it was brilliant. It really was, and it just got because it was at a time when Luca wasn't playing, and I'll never forget where we were finishing off, and then all of a sudden, I think it was Luca's turn to maybe sing or do something, and the power just cut, and it was me who shouted. I said, "I think Rude's just pulled the plug," and like you can imagine, the lads were just, right on Luca straight away. He found it hilarious, but it's just little things like that we had amongst the lads that you could say things and get away with, and it wasn't nasty, it wasn't anything like that. Yeah, it was just a brilliant day.
And the FA Cup final itself, obviously, you was injured, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but what were your emotions on that day that Chelsea, finally lifted a big trophy after nearly 26 years?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it started off, I was put in a little bit of an awkward situation because Craig Burley got dropped, and they sort of said to me, "Oh, can you look after him?" I'm like, "Well, hang on a minute, I mean, I don't want to have a downer on my day. I just want to enjoy the day." So I took him for a couple of pints and sort of calmed him down a little bit. Understandably, he was very upset because he played sort of 40 games that year and he got left out. But, that's football. But listen, absolutely delighted. It was different because I felt I could have been playing because, I'd been in the team the season before and back in the team. But because you're injured, there's nothing you can do about it. But you just want your club, like I said before, you want your club to do well. And the following day, I thought it was really nice. There was a tour to Bangkok, Brunei, and Hong Kong, and Rude said he put the sort of travelling party up, and there was no injuries going. And I went to see him, and I said, "Look, Rude," I said, "I need to do some rehab. Can I come and rehab with the physio Terry Burney at the time?" And fair play to him, he said, "No problem at all." He said, "What you've been through and that." He said, "I'd like you to come." So that was, a touch of class from Rude for doing that. It was great because you feel, I am part of it, and I helped run the players' pool during the, the time I was injured, try and take a little bit of that sort of stuff away from the players, because at the end of the day, you just want them to concentrate on the game. But it was a great time. We had a great night. Met Pele that night as well. So dream come true for him, I think. So yeah, all good.
And later in '97, you made your return to the pitch for Chelsea in a League Cup tie against Blackburn.
Yeah.
This must have been sort of huge for you personally, emotionally, psychologically, knowing that you was able to get back on the field, not just for Chelsea, but just for yourself.
Yeah, it was. It's tough. Anyone who's been through long-term injuries, mentally, it's tough. Physically, it's tough. But yeah, you don't realise when you're young, you're only one tackle away from your career ending. But, fortunately for me, it happened when I was sort of, late 20s rather than, 18, 19. So, but just to get back and play, yeah, it was great. I played a few more games after that, and that was it. But to come back work that night, and I mean, I can remember the next day, my whole body was just in bits, because you're not used to the vigours of, all the running you do, all the swimming and all the training you can do, but nothing, you can't experience anything until it's a match. And I think I was waiting to take the next penalty, and I think we'd won it on pens.
That's right.
Yeah. So no, it was great. It was a great feeling. It was great to be back in front of, the fans at Stamford Bridge again.
And you had another loan spell away from Chelsea before leaving the club permanently in the summer of '98.
Yeah.
How did that move to Bristol Rovers come about? Was it a joint decision between yourself and Chelsea, or what was
Yeah,
there
I
other
mean,
factors?
I went to Sheffield United for a month with Nigel Spatman just to play some games. Then I came back and they sort of came in for me, and I thought, well, you know, sometimes you just got to leave. Yeah, I mean, listen, Chelsea acted with class as they always do. When I left, went to see managing director and got my contract terminated and left and went to Bristol Rovers. It was a team that obviously I supported growing up, but it didn't end up great. I think sometimes when you drop down a couple of divisions, it's harder because you've gone from playing with world class players to, no disrespect, but lesser players. It's the old saying: the higher you go, the easier it is. It is. If you put any player from League One into Man City's team this year, they'd look a good player because they're playing with 10 other good ones. So I found it a little bit difficult, and obviously the way they play was a bit different. But I enjoyed it. We had a good set of lads there. I made friends with people there that I still speak to now. So it was quite nice. But from a career point of view, it was only gone one way from when I left Chelsea.
Now, I want to talk about current events, if I can, David. And
yeah, of course you can.
One particular sort of thing that's ruffled a few people's feathers since its creation is VAR. And whether we like it or not, it is here to stay. David, I've asked this to all my previous guests on the show. What are your thoughts on VAR?
I think it can be very good if it's used correctly, personally. I just find it really strange how they can make some decisions on something, but not on others. It's got to be, glaring obvious mistake for them. But if there's a mistake further down the pitch, they can't go back to that. But they can overturn a penalty or whatever, or they can bring it back at offside. The worst thing I think about it is if a player's going through and he's blatantly offside, the linesman doesn't raise his flag, and he'll go around the goalie and stick it in, then he raises it. I think you're going to get a really serious injury one of these days where they've delayed, the linesman's not put his flag up, but he's blatantly offside. If it's like millimetres in it, I understand that. But if the linesman knows it's 2 or 3 yards offside, stick your flag up straight away, because I think you're going to get a really nasty injury. So little things like that need to be sorted out. I think if you look at the way they do it in cricket, everyone knows what's going on. They go to the big screen. There's a voice saying, roll me this. Is he out? Is he stumped? Is he run out? If they can do that in football, I think it would help everybody. I think there's a little bit too many grey areas still at the moment. Yeah, it'll be good, but I don't want it stopped for everything, because it will just end up like, the game will last an hour and 20 and it'll be no good. But yeah, I can see overturning penalties, or, if someone dives and the ref's 10 yards away and can't quite see that someone's dived, yet the guy in the studio's got a better angle of it, then I'm all for that. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's I suppose I've got a similar opinion to everyone else. It could be good, but it's got to be done properly.
A couple more questions before we finish, David.
No problem.
In regards to current day Chelsea,
Yeah.
certainly not been boring the last few weeks.
Certainly not.
Within the news. What are your thoughts, firstly, on the current team at Chelsea with Thomas Tuchel in charge and looking good in the Premier League, in the FA Cup, in the Champions League, and also sort of to top that, what's your thoughts on the current situation in the boardroom?
So the current team, I feel, should be a little bit closer to Liverpool, Man City, with the squad they've got. Some of the games this year, they had a little blip, didn't they, of a few games where drew or lost. I feel that with the squad they got, I know that everyone's had injuries and different things. The two fullbacks got injured at the same time, or the wing backs in Reece and Chilwell. But I do think, he'd be slightly disappointed they're not challenging the top two. In Europe, I think it'll take a good side to beat Chelsea over 2 legs. I still feel that we can get to the final again, no matter who we play. And I felt the League Cup, we had the best chances to win the game and didn't win it. And then once it goes to penalties, it's a lottery. I found it strange that he changed the goalie. That's just my opinion on the final. Given that I know he's done it before, but Mendy had been in the Africa Cup of Nations and they'd won a penalty shootout. He was brilliant in the game, in my opinion. And I just felt, that momentum might have carried us through. Anyway, FA Cup, yeah, I think we got the draw that everyone wanted. I think that's no disrespect to Palace, and I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. But you know, they were the team I think all Chelsea fans would have wanted, and probably their best player, knowing that he couldn't play against us, which was, you know, good news. Not for him, not for the lad, obviously, but you know, from Chelsea point of view, it's good. And I just feel that they've had probably a month where it just didn't fire on all cylinders and got a little bit far behind. And you're never going to catch up now. You've got to chase two of them. You never, you know, chasing one team like Liverpool have done with Man City. You know, they can do it, but Chelsea are too far behind now to win the league this year. But they can still have a good season by reaching the FA Cup and winning that, and reaching the Champions League and winning that again. You know, I don't think anyone's retained it, have they, before? So that would be nice to do.
Format, no,
not the current format. So, you know, like I say, to beat Chelsea over two legs, I think you've got to be a good side. I think Man City, I think Bayern Munich and Liverpool will also say that by themselves. You've got to be a good team. But, you know, it's possible that we could still end the season with the final in the League Cup, winning the FA Cup, winning the Champions League, and obviously securing. We're going to be in the top four anyway. So the boardroom, obviously, it came not as a huge shock when the news broke because of, you know, what's going on in the Ukraine and Russia. I just hope it gets sorted. I hope it gets. I think a lot of the press sort of go anti-Chelsea when it comes to things like that, you know, and write stuff about them. But I just hope it gets sorted one way or another. I don't want like 3 or 4 consortiums. I'd rather one person took over and ran it, or put the money in and then just got someone in to run it, or keep the current regime like Jack and Marina to run it still and just fund the club. But it'd be nice if they do ask the opinion of the fans and people like that.
And finally, David, how do you look back on your career at Chelsea?
Very fondly. I enjoyed every minute of it, to be honest. You know, it's a wonderful club. Got treated, you know, very, very well by the staff, the players and the fans. So, yeah, I got nothing but good things to say about it. Done what everyone wanted to do, sort of thing, you know, and that was it.
Well, David, again, thank you very much for coming on to the show. I appreciate it. And
thanks a lot. Cheers.